everyone, a very good evening and a very warm welcome to today's session. I hope you guys are doing absolutely fine and amazingly well. A very happy Navratri to all of my dear students. बहुत स्वागत है आपका आज के सेशन में, which is of money and credit. And today we are going to discuss, sorry, not money and credit, guys, by mistake I said that. It's poverty as a challenge, and today we are going to discuss poverty line and estimation of poverty. ठीक है, तो poverty line and estimation of poverty जो है वो हम करने वाले हैं. So let's get started with me, Ankana, your expert for social sciences at Embibe. As you guys have already, most of you have already met, but for the students who have not, मेरा नाम Ankana है बच्चों. I have done my studies in the field of humanities and have had a wonderful journey of being associated with the education sector for more than 9 years. And for more than 9 years, where I've had the opportunity to interact and teach students of both CBSE and ICSE online and offline, which has been wonderful, right? यार बहुत तरह का नाम है, मतलब there are multiple names which is given to today. Today is Navami, that's why I said happy Navratri and I did not say happy Dashera. ठीक है? So it's not Ram Navami, Tarun, it's Navratri. And aaj Navami hai, it's the 9th day. Tomorrow is Dashera, but tomorrow also we have session, no chutti. How amazing is that? Correct, Tarun. Ram Navami April March उस time पे होती है, ठीक है? Okay, so while we are also having this chat, let me quickly say hi to all of you. Hi everyone, welcome to the session. Please let your friends know as well that we are live and we have started with our session of poverty as a challenge, where we are going to talk about the poverty estimation. Hi Stasha, Tarun, everyone, very warm welcome. Who else do we have in the session? और कौन है? जल्दी से आओ और hello बोल दो. आ करके hi बोल दीजिए. I would love to hear from you. I know, Tarun, that's so cool. So lucky for you. Enjoy these days as students, because once you grow up and you're working, you wouldn't have 5 days for Vijay Dashmi as an off. Like tomorrow, sessions at Embibe will be conducted. Day after tomorrow also, and all the next 5 days. So आ जाना यहाँ पे पढ़ाई करने के लिए. Hi Naitik, good evening. Welcome to the session. Okay, now let's talk about the chapter. So poverty as a challenge, guys, has been divided majorly in 3 bigger topics, which is your introduction to poverty, poverty line and estimation of poverty, and the causes of poverty and what can be our measures to fight this deep-rooted, complicated problem. Now, the concepts that we will be talking about and discussing today is going to be poverty line, how the line is determined in India based on calorie consumption, poverty line in India based on income. These two are going to be 2 different concepts particularly, however, they fall under the same topic. Then we'll also discuss about NSSO, which is your National Sample Survey Organization. What is the uniform standard of poverty line by the World Bank, which means on a world standard, where do we stand and what is it, and poverty estimates in India. ये सारी चीज़ों को हम करेंगे discuss. So we'll start with a quick recap of the first chapter, first session of the chapter. हमारे 4 दिन की छुट्टी थी and अब दशहरा के बाद खुलेगा. ताशा आज वही पढ़ेंगे, poverty line क्या होती है, that's what we are going to read today. Okay, what is poverty line is also will also be discussed in today's session, and how is it determined will also be discussed. ठीक है? Hi Anjali, welcome. So बच्चों, poverty क्या होती है? Poverty is a condition, economical condition where you are struggling to meet even the basic needs of your life, right? So it is characterized by lack of basic resources that people are not able to afford for minimal standard of living. Minimal standard of living से हमारा क्या मतलब है? That you're not just for your basic survival. What do you need? You need clothes, you need shelter, you need food, you need clean water, you need clean sanitation, proper sanitation services. जब ये सारी चीज़ें भी नहीं होती हैं हमारे पास, तो उस कंडीशन को हम पावर्टी, गरीबी बहुत ज़्यादा कहते हैं. ठीक है? What do you mean by extra? Tarun, you'll have to tell me what topics in terms of extra knowledge are you expecting me to tell you. I will. चलो, सोशल साइंटिस्ट्स कौन है? तो जैसे वी हैव साइंटिस्ट्स एक्सप्लेनिंग द साइंटिफिक थ्योरीज बिहाइंड ऑल द अकरेंसेस, behind different things, वैसे ही society को study करते हैं. People study the society. People who study the society find the patterns and the causes behind it, find the explanations and theories behind it, are social scientists. When they did a study about the different economical conditions and society in general based on economic classes and basis, they have taken up various indicators to understand problem of poverty. Indicators kya hai? What are the various parameters? What are the different parameters that they have taken? So it includes income, it includes education, health and access to clean water, etc. Things like these. So it's not just one thing that if you have money then you have then you're not poor, or if you don't have money then you're poor or you're poverty stricken. It involves multiple things. Just money alone is not enough to describe this, okay? Tarun, definitely, we'll see. It will depend upon the availability of time. If I have, we'll definitely talk about it more in detail and we'll have a discussion in detail, okay? Now, poverty can also be viewed through the lens of social exclusion. अब ये social exclusion एक term था where we stopped in the previous session. I will again start with social exclusion and vulnerability. These are two different terms that we'll start with again today, okay? So, social exclusion क्या होता है? Okay guys, let me do something. Recap में ही social exclusion को फिर से समझ लेते हैं. Social, which means in the society. Exclusion means not to include, not to be a part of. So, what happens with social exclusion? Let me give you two examples. One is of caste system and one would be of economical class. Now, caste system is what we don't encourage, definitely we don't follow, and we have been trying to discontinue it for a very, very long period of time. But caste system is something which has led to problems of social exclusion. Now, what exactly is social exclusion? Bache, the entire society is divided in various groups based on the differences that exist, right? Differences could be basis of gender, it can be on the basis of your race, it can be on the basis of your ethnicity, it can be on the basis of your region. Because language जो है वो भी एक barrier create करती है. Language also acts as a barrier. For example, Hindi speakers, if you go to a place where there are different linguistic groups, people who speak different languages, you will normally find people speaking the same language will come together. Because it's easier to communicate, it's easier to connect with each other. People speaking Spanish will come together, people speaking Latin will come together, people speaking French will come together, people speaking Hindi will come together, English will stick together, Tamil will stick together, Kannada will stick together mostly. Because it's easier for you to communicate, so whatever language you speak, you will find people ultimately form a group and get, differentiated. अपने आप को वो ग्रुप्स में अलग अलग कर लेते हैं, and that is something that not just happens in a place that you are visiting but also in general in society. Society में भी ऐसा होते हुए हमने in general देखा है, right? कि gender के basis पे, caste के basis पे, economical class के basis पे people get divided. Now, earlier, because the caste system existed, there was a forward caste and a backward caste ka thinking. Okay, this is how the pattern was, that there were few people who considered themselves as the uplifted, the upper class, the forward class, whereas the others were taken as a backward and lower class. Now, whenever upward class would be there, the backward class would not be allowed to enter that space, physically or in terms of opportunity, metaphorically, literally and metaphorically, both ways. तो जैसे क्या होता था कि मान लो there is some event happening where people are being preached something. The backward class would not be allowed over there, only forward class people will be there. So as a result of this, what is happening? The backward class people are missing on that knowledge and they're missing on that opportunity. So because they were already of a backward class, could never become a part of these opportunities that the forward class had access to. So backward class की वजह से उनको include नहीं किया, exclusion happened. Now, because they were not included, what happens now? They will not gain that knowledge, they will never be able to get that opportunity, they will never move above from where they are. So, what is happening? Because they are of backward class, they are not included, and because they are not included, they will never learn those things and will always remain in the same circle, and a circle will be formed, a loop will be formed, a cycle will be formed, a vicious cycle, एक social exclusion का cycle हो जाएगा. So, social exclusion जो है इसी वजह से is a result as well as a cause. Because people are socially excluded, they do not get the opportunity, and because they do not get the opportunity, they stay in the same pit, they stay in the same position, and again they are not able to join it back. So it goes in a cycle. Similarly, इकोनॉमिकल क्लास की बात करते हैं. मान लो कि कुछ लोग रिच हैं या are not poor, I will say. Okay, they are able to have enough money to get educated, to participate in an event, something like that. And then there are poor people. Poor people who are not educated maybe, or even if they have some level of education, do not have the money to access a learning conference. Okay, now what will happen? A conference hota hai. In this conference, these rich people are able to go. The poor people are not able to go because they are socially excluded. These people wouldn't accept them over here because they'll feel that they're not the perfect fit. उनको लगेगा कि ये perfect fit नहीं है, इसलिए इनको हम नहीं यहाँ include कर सकते. Because of which they're missing this opportunity. Now, because they have missed this opportunity, they will never learn these things, and in future ahead, when you would need people with these ideas, poor people will not be able to participate. तो क्या हो रहा है? Because they are poor, they are not included in this and are not able to participate. Hence are not able to come out of their zone, the class that they belong to. And because they are not able to come out of this, again they will not be included. So, because they are poor becomes a cause that they are not included, and because of which they are not, and because they are not included, they remain poor becomes the result. So, social exclusion is society में difference create कर देना, और ये रीज़न भी बन जाता है और रिजल्ट भी बन जाता है. जो लोग पहले से सोसाइटी में एक सर्टेन नहीं इंक्लूड किए जाते हैं, वो उस वजह से उस चीज़ों को सीख नहीं पाते हैं, और क्योंकि वो इंक्लूड नहीं करके सीख नहीं रहे हैं, आगे भी उन्हें इंक्लूड नहीं किया जाएगा, और ये एक साइकिल में चलता रहता है. दिस इज व्हाट सोशल एक्सक्लूजन इज. आर यू गाइस क्लियर विद सोशल एक्सक्लूजन? समझ आ गया सोशल एक्सक्लूजन का मतलब? बिकॉज दिस इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. सो यू कैन से इट इज अ साइकिल. इट्स अ साइकिल. And it's a vicious cycle, which means it's a bad cycle. It's not good for our society. Whenever we have seen that we have given chances, we have taken a chance. Okay, we have been generous. We have given the opportunity irrespective of any difference. People wherever they come from have got uplifted from there. वो अपने background से आगे बढ़ पाए हैं. Uneducated have become educated. Poor have become rich when opportunity has been given to them, when the opportunity has been presented to them. But until unless you do, until unless you keep people excluded, जब तुमने उनको लाया ही नहीं है, include किया ही नहीं है, आगे कैसे बढ़ेंगे? So is social exclusion clear for you guys? Please reply in the chat. Next term is vulnerability. Vulnerability is next very important term, and this is another term that we need to understand very well. Basically, social exclusion leads to vicious cycle which will not lead to human capital formation for a country. Stasha, in a way, yes, correct. That's one of the result of this social exclusion. Yes, Stasha, absolutely correct. So, Stasha ko samajh aa gaya. What about other people? Did the rest of you understand what do we mean by social exclusion? कोई जवाब नहीं देगा? सबको समझ आ गया है? देखो, you don't answer or you don't ask question in two conditions. When you have understood everything, when you have understood nothing. I am going to believe that you have understood everything and move on. Because if you have doubts, please go ahead and ask. पूछ लेना. अब vulnerability क्या होता है? तो vulnerable, being vulnerable is a term we use very much these days, especially in terms of emotion. So it's not a new word to our ears. ये कुछ नया नहीं है. Social media, conversation with friends, mentors, a lot of them use the word of being vulnerable, which means what? Being open and at risk, being exposed. So normally क्या होता है? We want to protect ourselves and we don't share our feelings, our emotions, we hide things. That is being in a shell. Being vulnerable is okay, fine, I will tell you about my weaknesses, I will tell you about my insecurities, I will tell you exactly how I feel. Normally, why do you not do that? Because you are afraid that other person may not understand and hurt you, or you may be taken advantage of because they know who and exactly what you're feeling, who you are, so they may take an advantage. This state of being exposed is being vulnerable, right? But this is emotional vulnerability. Right now we are talking about vulnerability in terms of, in general, physical and economical vulnerability. ठीक है? Tasha, that's very sweet of you. I'm really glad. So vulnerability क्या हो गई बच्चे? Vulnerability in simple words means risk or exposure to risk. ठीक है? So vulnerability to poverty is a measure of increased risk that certain communities or individuals have becoming or remaining poor. So vulnerability in terms of poverty basically means who are those people who are at a higher risk, or who are already at the risk, or are more exposed to the risk of being poor or getting poor. Now I'll give you some examples of vulnerability, okay? Vulnerability is influenced by the availability of assets, education, health, job opportunities, and capacity to cope with risks. A person who's not educated, does not have family wealth, has some savings. Now you tell me, if a condition like COVID happens again, a person like that, or a person who is educated and has a job where the person can work from home also, between these two, who is at a higher risk of being struck by poverty? इन दो लोगों में से किसके अंदर poverty से जूझ जाने की या poverty से में फंस जाने की ज़्यादा probability है? Who's more probable? Who is at a higher risk? A person who's not educated or a person who's educated? Let's keep it simple. एक पढ़ा लिखा इंसान और एक इंसान जो पढ़ा लिखा नहीं है, किसकी ज़्यादा probability हो जाती है गरीबी की तरफ बढ़ने की? हाँ जी बताइए. Tasha, Tarun, Anjali, what do you guys think? Who's more exposed? Who's at a higher risk? Whose condition is risky? The one who's uneducated might lead to poverty or may not, right? We don't know. What if they figure out a business? तो हमें पक्का नहीं पता है. But again, so social scientists found few parameters, ठीक है? And they did some study and they realized that everyone in the society, guys, this is very, very important. So listen to this carefully. ठीक है Tarun? Social scientists and people in general did a study of the society and they realized that few people in the society are at a higher risk, are more exposed, to be poor or to change into, to fall into poverty. तो हमने ये देखा कि कुछ लोग ऐसे जो है उनके ऊपर रिस्क ज़्यादा है, वो ज़्यादा एक्सपोजर पे है, जो गरीबी से जूझ सकते हैं, जो गरीब जा करके गरीबी में गिर सकते हैं आगे चल के. ठीक है. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, देयर इज अ फैमिली and there is a clear example of this. Women who are not working, who are not literate, जो पढ़ी लिखी नहीं है, educated नहीं है. Elder people, because they cannot work, they're physically not capable. So even in a family which is poor, there are few people who are more vulnerable than the other few. ठीक है. Children, because they are still receiving education or they may not receive education, and what will they do in future? So let's imagine a family of 6 members or 5 members. 5 लोगों की family imagine करते हैं. 2 people who are young couple, man and women, their parents, and they have 1 child. So it's a family of 5. Now the wife of this man is a little bit educated, let's say 10th pass है वो, ठीक है, does some job. The wife does not work and is not educated. The elders, again, they are retired or cannot work, they are really old. And the child is maybe 10 years old or 8 years old. In this family, the person who is least vulnerable, जो सबसे कम risk पे है, is the man. Why? Because he is literate, उसको थोड़ा पढ़ना आता है, he is at least 10th graduated and can do some job and has been working, so has some working skills. Whereas the wife, the elder parents and the child are not educated, do not have any experience, do not have the exposure or the knowledge of the world. So if there is any risk or if they're exposed to danger or disaster or any hurdle oriented situation, these people would be at a higher risk of being struck by poverty than the man. So vulnerability is basically the scale that who is at how much risk of turning into a poverty struck situation compared to other people. ठीक है, रिस्क पे कितना ज्यादा हो आप, तो वो डिटरमाइन होती है बेस्ड ऑन योर हेल्थ कंडीशन, बेस्ड ऑन योर एजुकेशन, बेस्ड ऑन योर एक्सपीरियंस इन लाइफ एटसेट्रा. So social exclusion and vulnerability highlight the social and cultural factors that contribute to poverty and inequality. ठीक है, in fact even in a family, let's say it's a middle class family, which means they have decent amount of money to earn and spend ahead, but let's say the wife out of this family is not educated at all and has always been dependent on the husband for money. When it comes to let's say a disaster happens and the husband leaves the family or the husband passes away, then this family will become poor because the wife is not educated, does not have knowledge of work and experience or working skills, so she won't be able to earn money. So normally क्या होता है, liabilities जो होती है ना लाइफ में, liabilities बच्चे इनको burden की तरह नहीं समझना है कि oh my god humans are being referred to as liabilities. In terms of economy, ठीक है, in terms of economics, a person who is not capable to earn or a person who has less potential to earn is taken as a liability, who is dependent, because that person is dependent on you. It's not an asset. He or she is not an asset. वो इंसान asset नहीं है. They're not helping. They're not adding value. They are in fact putting a pressure or maybe adding responsibility. So a person who is a responsibility, who is a liability, who will need help from other people are always more vulnerable. So that is what we have discussed till now. It was important to revise these things because it gets a little confusing with social exclusion and vulnerability. Now let's get started and talk about, if your teacher selects 10 of your classmates and asks you to identify who among them is considered poor and who is not, how would you decide? Why don't you guys tell me, how would you normally decide? आप क्या करते हो, जनरली क्या करते हो अगर आपको क्लास में ऐसे अचानक से उठा दिया जाए, और मे बी आई जस्ट टेक यू समवेयर एंड से देयर आर 20 people, you have to decide who's poor and who's not. Normally what are the things you would look at? Would you go and check their bank balance? Would you go and check their wallets? Would you see how much money are they carrying? Would you inquire if they are getting at least 2 meals a day? Would you ask them whether or not they are leading a happy life? What will you do? With numerous potential criteria to consider, which parameters should we use to determine who is classified as poor, that we are going to understand today. Health condition पे आप decide करोगे first of all, okay? Luxuries they experience. So of course, see, we are school going, not we, you are school going kids, so that's where you'll look at these things. But in an open society, if I take you to a village and then I ask you, decide, just look at them and decide, then how will you decide? So there are multiple ways to make a proper informed decision that who really is poor and who is not. Okay, that we are going to understand today. Okay, Tanish Rocks, welcome to the session. Good evening. So with that comes the first term, which is poverty line. तो पहला शब्द जो हम सीखेंगे यहाँ पे वो है poverty line. Central to discussion on poverty lies the concept of poverty line. So whenever you talk about poverty, one important term that you need to know about is poverty line. Definition क्या है? Stasha was asking, ma'am, what is poverty line? What does poverty line exactly technically mean? A person is considered poor if their income or consumption falls below a specific minimum level required to meet basic needs. So guys, poverty line is basically an imaginary line ठीक है, which we have created. What we have done is we have taken multiple parameters, measurements, ठीक है. We have seen income or consumption level, based on which we have decided how much a person needs to meet the basic necessities of their lives. So basically क्या होता है, what you do is you see that in order to be able to get meals at least twice a day, or in order to be able to get 2 pair of clothes a month or 1 pair of clothes a month, to have shelter on your head, you need a certain amount of money, है ना. या फिर वो जो आप 2 वक्त का खाना खा रहे हो, इवन द फूड दैट यू आर ईटिंग, डज इट हैव एनफ? अब जैसे मैंने कहा 2 वक्त का खाना, ओके आई गॉट 1 एप्पल टू ईट, अभी एप्पल छोड़ो, आई गॉट अ बनाना टू ईट as my lunch, and as my dinner I'm getting 1 chapati to it. Is that enough? Will I be able to survive as a human on that? I won't be. I would need more nutrition, I would need more calories to stay fit, to survive, to not be weak and malnourished. So we have taken multiple things into encounter, we have taken multiple things into consideration. Uske baad humne ek imaginary line draw ki. We drew an imaginary line. This line basically defines, so let's say this is the poverty line, okay? This is what? The poverty line. So anyone who's able to meet at least the very basic requirements of their life, having to be able to have food twice a day enough to survive, having somewhat clean water to drink, some sanitation, basic necessities. तो उसको फिर हमने क्या किया? We changed that into money. We calculated that in order to be able to afford these things, I will at least need 5,000 rupees a month, example, okay, or 1,500 rupees a month. And then I said anyone who's not earning even 1,500 rupees a month is poor, is poverty stricken. That person will fall under below the poverty line. ठीक है, वो इंसान को हमने कहाँ रखा? इस लाइन के नीचे रखा, which means they are so poor that even to be able to survive, they do not have enough money. But if they are able to meet at least basic needs of their life, then people are placed above the poverty line. So this is the line that defines whether you have enough to be able to survive or not. It's an imaginary line created by us based on certain calculations on parameters like income and consumption level. What do you mean by consumption level? There is a family of 5 members, okay. Only one member earns. सिर्फ एक इंसान earn करता है, ठीक है. There's just one member who earns. Now imagine this one member earns 10,000 rupees. 10,000 rupees is not less. 10,000 रुपए में survival किया जा सकता है. 10,000 rupees does not sound like very less, that you won't be able to have food, clothes, shelter, etc. But the problem is that there are 5 members in the family, which means there are 4 members who is dependent on this particular person, okay. Or let's say there are 8 members in this family. थोड़ा और अच्छे से level up करते हैं, which means 7 members are now dependent on this person and on the 10,000 rupees, which means there is less than 1,000, there's less than 1,500 rupees per person available, which is not enough. So just consumption level क्या हुआ? इस family के लिए ज़्यादा है. वहीं पे there is a family which is only of 2 members and that family is also earning 10,000 rupees. Now the survival of this family is going to be much better than that of these 8 members family with the same income. So income and consumption level both matter. आप कितना कमाते हो और आपका खर्च कितना है, ये दोनों चीजें मैटर करती हैं. मैं 1 लाख रुपए कमाती हूँ पर मुझे 50 लोगों का ध्यान रखना है, मुझे 100 लोगों का ध्यान रखना है. I earn 1 lakh rupees, I earn 50,000, 80,000 rupees, but I have to feed 100 people. So it doesn't matter the amount of income that I have. What also matters is what is my consumption level. How much money do I spend? What is the necessity? What are the necessary expenses that I have in life? So इन सब को ध्यान में रख के एक लाइन बनाई हमने और हमने कहा कि if somebody has less than this line, less than this level, we basically drew a level. We said you at least need this amount of money to survive. इससे अगर आपके पास कम हुआ, then your poverty struck, you're below poverty line. So you may have heard the term BPL, which means below poverty line. People who do not even have that bare minimum amount of income and based on their consumption level, which is required to be able to survive normally. Okay. Now, guys, poverty line jo hai is not a constant thing. However, it is an imaginary line, but it's not constant person to person. It varies. How does it vary and what are the things that we have to take in consideration? And why can't we have one poverty line for every place? I'll give you one very simple example to begin with, and we'll take the example of a car. Car in India is luxury. ठीक है? Whereas in USA, because in general people are not so poor and their earning levels are comparatively higher, US में it's a basic need. So you understand the difference? So we see just based on country, the requirement changes. Car, which is a luxury in India, is a basic need in US, which means most of the people have a car. If you don't have a car, you're poor. But in India, if you have a car, you're probably rich. You definitely are not poor. So the definition of poverty line will depend on the geography. Will depend where you are. आप कहाँ पे हो, किस एरिया में हो, इन सारी चीज़ों से जो है डिफर करेगा, ठीक है? Hi Marifa Islamic Courts, very warm welcome to this session. Good evening. So सबसे पहले we have to understand that the poverty line will vary from time and place, which means what is the basic need across countries and time periods will vary. As in today's date, 5,000 rupees is nothing. 5,000 rupees कहाँ चल जाएंगे पता नहीं चलेगा. Everything is so expensive. But in 1960s, it was salary of people who led a very good life. 1950s, 1960s में 5,000 जो कमा रहे थे would be equivalent to a person earning 50,000, 60,000 rupees in today's date. So what do we understand? The amount will change with time and the amount will change with place. In a village, or in a small city, if you're earning 50,000 rupees, in general the commodities and other services would be cheaper. एक छोटे शहर में या गांव में अगर आप 50-60 हज़ार 70,000 रुपए कमा रहे हो तो चीज़ें आपको थोड़ी सस्ते में मिलती हैं, तो वहाँ पे आपके लिए वो पैसे कम नहीं है. बट इफ द सेम अमाउंट यू आर अर्निंग इन सिटीज लाइक मुंबई, दिल्ली, बैंगलोर, एवरीथिंग इज सो एक्सपेंसिव दैट इवन दैट मे मेक यू फील लेस. आपको उतने पैसों में भी कमी महसूस हो सकती है. क्यों? क्योंकि जगह से डिफर कर रहा है चीज़, टाइम से डिफर कर रहा है. The place is making the whole context different. The place is expensive. So poverty line will differ with time and place. Geographical variation. Different countries establish their own poverty lines according to their developmental stage and societal norms. A country which has a lot of unemployment, which is very poor, will have its poverty line at a lower level. A country which is very developed and rich will have their poverty line higher. Because most of the citizens are earning well, have good amount of food, so their requirements will be different. So their line will be drawn at a different level. For a country which is at a cheaper, which is very poor, does not have food in general, does not have employment, their poverty line will be below. Example में आप India और US ले सकते हो. US is a developed nation, so their poverty line will be higher. Expectation is higher. That a citizen until unless is making 20,000, 25,000 rupees a month, rupees में बता रही हूँ, डॉलर में नहीं, ठीक है, उसको हम गरीब नहीं मानेंगे. और यहाँ पे हमारे यहाँ क्या है, 2,500 रुपए है वो, it's 2,500 rupees. So that's the difference based on the country's developmental level. Because just like city and village, country to country also money variation happens. So as I told you, car का example, not owning a car is a sign of poverty in US, जबकि आपका इंडिया में it's a luxury. ठीक है, पाकिस्तान में और ज़्यादा बड़ी बात है. You know why? So guys, इंडिया में for example you have an Alto will cost you maybe what 5 lakhs if I'm not wrong, 5 लाख जैसा कुछ पड़ता है. The same Alto is for some 12, 15 or 20 lakh rupees in Pakistan, because Pakistan economically is further at a lower stage than India. So that will also matter. Poverty line serves as a benchmark for measuring and addressing poverty within a specific context. So that is why we have to understand that this is a line which definitely helps us understand how are people doing, but it will vary from context to context. The same definition cannot be applied in every context. हर जगह same definition नहीं लगा सकते हैं हम, ठीक है? Now the poverty line in India based on calorie consumption. Calorie के consumption पे कितना खाना है. अब ऐसा है, as an adult who is staying in a city, I am not doing a lot of physical work, I am not lifting bricks on my head, I am not walking 5 kilometers a day. My life is different from that of a person in a village. है ना, एक गांव के इंसान से मेरी ज़िंदगी बहुत डिफरेंट है. मैं ईट सर पे नहीं उठाती हूँ, पत्थरों को नहीं उठाती हूँ, 5-5 किलोमीटर नहीं चलती हूँ, मेरा फिजिकल जो वर्क है वो उतना ज्यादा नहीं है. आई डोंट नीड एज मच फिजिकल एनर्जी एज अ पर्सन स्टेइंग इन विलेज. So the amount of food that I need and a person, a woman who stays in a village needs will be different. मेरी थोड़ी कम calories में भी enough energy मिलेगी to conduct my day, whereas a woman in a village, because of all of these things, will need more energy. So based on that, we have done the calculation. ठीक है, तो हमने क्या किया? In India में we have established based on minimum requirements of food, clothing, education. These are basic things जिसके basis पे we have seen that in order to have basic food, basic education, clothing, all your basic needs, when you calculate in money, how much money do you need? That is how we have calculated our poverty line. Physical quantities and prices की बात करें तो these essential items, physical quantities are multiplied by their respective price in rupees. Calorie based formula हमने कैसे निकाला? Current method for estimating the poverty line in India focuses on the desired calorie intake as a measure of food requirement. Which in simple words, इसको थोड़ा simplify करके आपको बताती हूँ. I as a person, let's say, needs 2100 calories in a day to keep running and have my work done. In order to be able to have 2100 calories, I do the calculation that, okay, I should have 2 chapatis, 1 bowl of rice, 2 bowls of dal, 2 bowls of vegetables. Okay. Now I have multiplied each of these products with their worth, with their value. अच्छा, 2 chapatis wheat के हिसाब से maybe is 10 rupees. Vegetables is 10 rupees. ऐसा सा करके we have calculated and we came to a calculation of 110 rupees. I'm just giving you an example. So this is how we determine कि okay, if you need 1 pair of cloth, 300 rupees may at least it will come. You need 2100 calories of food, it will at least cost you 50 rupees. So like this, you have calculated the value of each and every basic requirement. You have formed a final number which tells us if you do not have this final number amount as your earning, then you belong to the below poverty line section. So what is the calorie source? Food items like dal, vegetable, oil, sugar, all of this. ठीक है? Calorie variation we understand will happen as per age, gender and occupation. I gave you an example, right? A female who is working in a village is working harder, will need more calories than a person, a female like me working in a city. Plus age के साथ it will differ. Less calories will be required by older people because it's difficult for them to digest, plus they don't do so much of physical work. जो बूढ़े लोग होते हैं ज़्यादा काम नहीं करते हैं फिजिकल टास्क, ठीक है, उनकी रिक्वायरमेंट जो है पेट डाइजेशन कमज़ोर होती है, उन चीज़ों से भी कम होती है. वेयर एज अ ग्रोइंग चाइल्ड विल नीड मोर कैलोरी टू हैव अ मोर फॉर द फिटनेस. ठीक है, एक बढ़ते हुए बच्चे को ज़्यादा कैलोरी की ज़रूरत होती है. So based on that, the requirement will vary. With rural areas, will require more because the task, the kind of jobs that do is more physically intense. When we have taken all of this into account, we understood that the calorie requirement in the rural area on a standard basis is 2400 calories per day and 2100 calories per day in urban areas. तो हमने ये calculate करके ये समझ आया हमें. The monetary cost of calorie based requirement is periodically adjusted to the account for price increase. Now what do? We see that in order to get this 2400 calorie, out of these various things are required, some sugar, some milk, some vegetables, some cereal. So you do the calculation, you multiply it by its price and then you say, acha, in order to get 2400 calories, X amount of money is required. In order to get 2100 amount of calories, Y amount of money is required. This money adjustment is done every 4 to 5 years, every 2 to 3 years. एक periodic interval पे money adjustment is done as per its value. Why? Because we know that because of inflation. Inflation क्या होता है? The regular rise in prices of products because of growth and development. The wheat which was earlier probably sold for 15 rupees per kg, after 5 years is sold for 20 rupees per kg. What has happened? Because महंगाई बढ़ गई, right? The prices of things have gone up because development has happened. So the same product which was sold for 15 is now being sold for 20 and it will keep on increasing. Historically, we have seen that something which was sold for 100 is now being sold for 400 because with development prices has increased. So similarly ये calorie fix है, but the prices of, which means the monetary conversion, जो पैसे में calorie का conversion है, वो हर कुछ दिन पे हम रिवाइज करते रहते हैं based on the price changes. Price कैसे कैसे hike होता है उसके basis पे. Now let's quickly answer the question. The energy of nutritional level of food is expressed in the form of calories per day or milk per day. Hi SB Meghashri, good evening. Hi Priya Bache, very very good evening. Hi Siddharth Sarangi, good evening Bache, very very warm welcome. But why there is a vast difference between, sorry Bache I missed your message. Ma'am, but हर एक person को तो calorie need बदलता है. How is it relatable? Tarun, you're being very very specific and it's not possible to do a general calculation like that. So what we have to understand is, as an individual, as a grown up, as a person who is between age of 20 to 50 will roughly need 2100 calories for healthy survival. Calorie consumption will depend when you want to build muscle, okay, you want biceps or you don't want biceps, you want a lean body, you want a bulky body. That is where the calorie consumption differs. If a person just wants to meet the nutritional requirement, then based on age, रफली आपको आगे पीछे सेम अमाउंट ऑफ कैलोरी रिक्वायर्ड होती है. थोड़ा बहुत हाइट वेट के साथ वेरी करता है, बट यू कांट डू कैलकुलेशन फॉर 1.5 बिलियन पीपल, राइट? So you have to take age and gender and based on a general profiling that is done. एक general profile create किया जाता है कि yes, a man from age 20 to 50 will look like this. I'm assuming if that person stays in a city, will work for 8 hours but will do a job where he's sitting. Whereas a man who's of 20 to 50 age in a rural area will be working in the farms, will do a lot of physical work, would be roughly of 5'10" height. So based on these things, this is the amount of calorie that is required. तो उसको general profiling कहते हैं जो की जाती है. ठीक है तरुण? Okay, तो हमारे पास अगस्त्य का रिप्लाई आ गया. Tasha, Tarun, Tanmay, good job. You guys have answered correctly. Govind and Tushant have answered absolutely correct and perfect timing. Wonderful. It is calories per day. Okay. So the amount of energy contained in food per gram is known as energy density. Based on this, we realize that what is the amount of energy required by a particular person, और उसके basis पे we do the calculation. ठीक है? How many calories is there in curd? 10 ml curd. Priya, I don't know because I'm not a nutritionist, so I can't really tell that what is the amount of calorie that 10 ml of curd carries. But in general 2100 calorie counting जो है थोड़ा technical है, वो मैम को नहीं आता है exactly. ठीक है? But why there is a vast difference between incomes, or we can say value of things different. Guys, बच्चे 1 second, let me just read your message शुरू से. Okay, also students, please make sure that you're not sending very long messages because it gets difficult for me to read the entire big 4-5 line message. छोटे messages भेजो, ठीक है? Doubts भी जो है आपके छोटे रहते हैं तो मैं थोड़ा easily पढ़ पाती हूँ, ठीक है? तो अभी स्ताशा ने पूछा है कि we understand that in different countries each product has different value. But why there is a vast difference between incomes, or we can say value of things different in different villages or cities. बच्चे, first of all, in a developed nation, things are expensive, ठीक है? Plus, it's a lot about demand and supply, so there are multiple things. A product which is getting manufactured in US will be cheaper because the cost of that product is, it's not a lot of expenses involved for them to sell it over there. But when they're transporting it to India, more amount gets accounted, right? Tax भी pay कर रहे हैं वो Indian government को trade करने के लिए, plus the transportation tax. So the same product which is available at 500 in US will cost you 700 in India is a probability. Demand and supply, बहुत सारी चीजें हैं. Income में variation क्यों है? Depends on the nature of job, right? For example, US में most of the jobs are in tertiary sector, which pays you more than agricultural sector. India में most of the jobs are in agricultural sector. Most of the people are working in agricultural sector and less are working in tertiary sector. So a lot of factors play a role between what determines the difference between the income level of different people. Why does the value vary? Again, it varies depending upon the demand and supply. Demand and supply आपको simple terms में याद रखना है. When a lot of people start moving to cities, what happens? More people are coming in, so the prices of the houses, the rent of the houses spike up. Whereas in villages, not a lot of people are coming. So demand is less, but supply is more. You have land, you have houses available. Less number of people are there to take. So it's available at a cheaper amount. तो ऐसे कर करके हर एक चीज की, in cities everything is expensive because demand is more, whereas in villages demand is less. In small towns demand is more than villages but less than bigger cities. तो वो बीच बीच की prices होती हैं, and that is how everything varies and depends. Tasha, is it clear to you? So what we have done, how we have calculated, the poverty line in India is determined based on income requirements. ठीक है, 2011 से 2012 की values देखी जाए तो poverty line was set at rupees 816 per month for rural areas and 1000 rupees for urban areas. Guys, please pay attention to this, okay? That in 2011 and 12, what we said was that if somebody earns 800 rupees per month in a village and 1000 rupees per month in an urban area, per person, okay? It's not for an entire family. If per person you have 816 rupees available per month in a village and 1000 rupees available in an urban area, then you are above the poverty line because you will be able to meet the basic requirements of your life like food, like clothes, like a house. ये basic requirement आप अपनी पूरी कर पाओगे. Urban price impact क्या होता है? Why is it higher? So if you remember, we said that only 2100 calories required by an individual in an urban areas, whereas a individual requires 2400 calories in a rural area. Despite of that, the money needed to survive in villages is less, but in urban areas is more, because in urban areas the cost of living is high. Essential goods like like foods and clothes are expensive compared to villages. गांव में आपको वो सेम चीज कम दाम में मिलेगी जो आपको शहर में ज्यादा दाम में मिलती है. ठीक है, ग्रोथ को इन्फ्लेशन अकम्पनी करता है. क्यों ग्रोथ हो रही है? वेरी सिंपल तरुण, यू आर एडुकेटेड, यू आर इन 9th standard right now. ठीक है तरुण, you answer this question and everyone will listen because it will also clear the doubt for everyone else. Tarun is in 9th standard right now. He decides to go take up a job. How much will you get paid? Let's just say you decide to take up a job. Take a guess, how much will you get paid? Tarun, we are not saying they are not poor. We are saying they are not below the poverty line. पावर्टी और पुअर जो है वो रिलेटिव भी होती है, अभी और समझेंगे. पावर्टी लाइन मीन्स दैट यू आर नॉट इन एडवर्स कंडीशन, वी आर नॉट इवन, यू आर नॉट इवन एबल टू सर्वाइव. पावर्टी लाइन 1000 रुपए मिलेंगे. ठीक है, ओके, मे बी. ठीक है, मे बी. ना तरुण, आफ्टर 7 years you have finished your 12th, you have finished your graduation from a decent college, how much will you get? How much do you expect to earn? In 9th standard, if you decide to go take up a job, you're earning 1000 rupees probably. But after 5 years, 7 years, you've finished your college, you've finished your 12th standard, and after 7 years, you decide to go take up a job, then how much do you think you will get? Around 40k, possibly. So Tarun, with your growth, why did your value increase? Your value right now in the market for your service would be 1000 rupees. But when you get more skilled, when you earn more knowledge, then you will earn 40,000 rupees. So as with time you grow and develop as an individual, the amount that you will be paid is also developing. So Tarun, do you understand the context now? That when a country develops, the value of the country also develops and the products also develop. So everything keeps on getting increasing. That is why growth is accompanied with inflation. ठीक है तरुण, समझ आ गया? वैल्यू, जब आपकी वैल्यू बढ़ रही है, आप डेवलप हो रहे हो तो आपकी वैल्यू बढ़ रही है, तो इसीलिए सारी चीजों की महंगाई बढ़ रही है. वैल्यू क्या है? मॉनेटरी टर्म्स में आप कन्वर्ट करोगे तो एक नंबर है. वैसे ही महंगाई बढ़ जाती है. तो poverty line, guys, doesn't mean that a person is not poor. A person who is above the poverty line can also be poor, because we are saying that basic requirement should be fulfilled, that I'm at least getting 2 meals, 2 chapatis, a katori of pulse, a bowl of dal and a bowl of sabzi. ठीक है? नहीं तरुण, प्राइस कम नहीं होगी. तो अगर तुम ज्यादा डेवलप हो रहे हो तो तुम्हें अभी मैं ज्यादा पैसे दूं और बाद में कम, वुड दैट मेक सेंस? एक इंडिविजुअल डेवलपमेंट से ही तुम अंदाज लगाओ ना. जब एक इंडिविजुअल डेवलप करता है और वहाँ उसकी चीजें महंगी होती जाती है, उसकी सर्विसेज महंगी हो जाती हैं, तो एक देश डेवलप होने पे सर्विसेज सस्ती क्यों हो जाएगी? देश डेवलप होने पे लोगों के लिए वो महंगी चीज महंगी नहीं रहेगी. दैट इज व्हाट यू हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड. When people have more money to spend, things will naturally be costlier. But it will not seem costly to them because they have the money to spend. So गरीब लोगों का living standard भी बढ़ रहा है, तो महंगाई भी बढ़ रही है. ठीक है? Tarun asked the question again. If a family is earning 5,000 rupees, there are 5 members, there's 1,000 rupees for each person. Is that family not poor? That family is still poor. But what we are saying is, it is not below the poverty line. Poverty line is that line which says that this person, this family will not even be able to survive with basic necessities of life. जीने के लिए जो जरूरी चीज है वो भी नहीं मिल पाएंगी. ठीक है? तो अभी हम poverty line ऐसे determine करते हैं, that's how we determine the poverty line, is that at least the basic, most basic requirement to be able to survive as a healthy, not even the healthiest, but a fit human, that you're not malnourished, what is the amount of money you need. ठीक है? तो एक फैमिली का एग्जाम्पल लेते हैं. 5 people earning less than 460 rupees per month will be considered below poverty line, because when you divide it by 5, it will be less than the 816 rupees. वहीं पे अर्बन फैमिली में 5,000 में जो आपके लोग हैं, ठीक है, with similar size requirement would need to be at least 5,000 rupees to meet their basic needs. अगर इन दोनों के prices, इन दोनों की अर्निंग इससे कम हुई, तो they are not even able to meet the basic need. उनको खाना भी नहीं मिल पा रहा है, उनको कुछ भी नहीं मिल पा रहा है, तो वो below poverty line चले जाएंगे. ठीक है? So one thing we have to understand, you guys, poverty line जो है, which is also a concern for us, right now we are determining on the basis of basic requirement, that you at least need a pair of clothes in 2 months, 3 months. You need these basic food. If you don't have that, you're below the poverty line. But it is also something for us as a nation to think about, that is that enough? कि मुझे भैया 2 रोटी मिल जा रही है, I'm not able to afford, if I want to have non-vegetarian protein in my diet, I cannot afford that. A family with 5,000 rupees of income with 5 members will not be able to afford to have non-veg multiple times in a month, which means that their living standard is really low. So right now we are just determining poverty line. We are not determining the standard of living. So keeping our bar so low is a concerning matter for us. That is what we need to understand, that as a nation we need to push it up. That it's not just that basic requirements are being met, but the standard of living is of a certain level for a family. ठीक है? नहीं, data is not very relevant. When the new survey is done, the data will change. ठीक है? So who will change this data? अभी तरुण ने पूछा कि मैम ये डेटा तो पुराना है, तो क्या ये अभी भी relevant है? नहीं है. But the point is, who is doing the study of this data? National Sample Survey Organization. So who is estimating the poverty line? The poverty line in India is determined through periodic sample surveys typically conducted every 5 years. Right now we have the data of 2011. The survey has been conducted. The data has not been included in NCRT. ठीक है? Responsible organization है. They only conduct, they take particular samples from villages, from urban areas, from bigger cities, from smaller cities, from towns. They do a study. They look at their consumption of calorie required. They look at the prices of everything and they do the estimation. And it was set up in 1950 to conduct large-scale sample surveys throughout India. And it is them who has done the study of 2011 also and will be doing ahead as well. So on that note, guys, let's quickly answer this question. An SSO who does the survey of all these particular sectors, ये जो है इनका फुल फॉर्म क्या है? नेशनल सैंपल सर्वे ऑर्गेनाइजेशन, नेशनल सिंपल सर्वे ऑर्गेनाइजेशन, नेशनल सैंपल सोर्स ऑर्गेनाइजेशन और नेशनल सैंपल सर्वे ऑर्गेनाइजेशन. यार ऑप्शन ए और डी जो है वो सेम दिख रहा है मुझे, तो ये गड़बड़ी हो गई है थोड़ी. Student Anjali Tarun have answered absolutely correct. So option A correct marked है, but actually जो है आपका option A और D बच्चे दोनों ही सही हैं, ठीक है, because दोनों ही National Sample Survey Organization कह रहे हैं. Okay, one topic which is uniform standard of poverty line by World Bank. This I'm gonna park for the next session. तो अभी हमने देखा कि इंडिया में जो लेवल है वो क्या सेट है, वर्ल्ड पे क्या सेट है टू डिटरमाइन पॉवर्टी लाइन विल डिफर, दैट विल डिस्कस इन द नेक्स्ट सेशन. सो लेट्स क्विकली समराइज. India's calorie based poverty line standard is for rural areas 2400 calories per day and 2100 calories per day in urban area. When you change it in terms of income basis, it is 816 rupees per month for an individual for rural area and 1000 rupees per month for urban area as per 2011-12 survey. The latest survey is still not there. And SSO, National Sample Survey Organization, conducts surveys to estimate the poverty line every 5 years. World Bank वाला poverty system जो है वो हम next session में करेंगे cover. So please make sure that you see me tomorrow at 6. So we have identified the variables used to determine who is poor. Next thing, we need to ensure the policies which is designed to bring them out. What is the government doing? How is it being successful? Can we solve this problem? All of this, guys, we'll be discussing tomorrow. So please make sure to go on Embibe live classes and register yourself for tomorrow's session. Do not forget to explore the Embibe Lens app and definitely make sure to connect on the Telegram channel. ये QR code और ये link है, ठीक है? Ma'am, if somehow afford 2100 calories but not get 1000 rupees a month, am I below the poverty line? Tarun, yes, you're below the poverty line because it's not just food. The calculation is done on the basis of other requirements as well. Food plus clothing, roti, kapda, makan, basic necessities. So, you would still fall. Both the criteria you have to be above. Okay? Chalo. So thank you so much for being here. That was an interesting question. I'll see you guys tomorrow. So have a great evening, you guys. Take good care of yourselves and your loved ones. Make sure to do the homework that I've assigned to you. And I'll see you tomorrow at 6 p.m. to discuss what is the world level poverty line. Okay? Till then, stay tuned and keep imbibing.
Keep imbibing. We believe in you.